And welcome back to another edition of Planet Philly, episode 3. And this time, we're also joined by Jen McGraw, Jason Joseph. I'm Nick Earnjo, but we have a very special guest from the Sporting News and TotalSportsLive.com. Jovan Alford is joining us. You can follow Jovan at Jovan10 on Twitter. He's the man, the myth, the legend. We're excited to have him as our first guest on the show. We're back, Jovan. It's your second time on Planet Philly. You started back when we were at Rowan Radio. Now we're on our own, and now you're the first guest, I think, times 2. How's it feel?
Feels pretty good. I'm glad to be on the show this time out of school for y'all. So definitely I'm excited. No pressure. I'm no one's legend. Like Charles Barkley always says, I'm not nobody's role model. So, glad to be on and, enjoy you guys' show. I've been following it since Rowan and now listening to it, as y'all do this independent wave. So glad to be on, to talk some Philly sports with y'all.
I'm excited as well. And we have Jason Joseph and Jen McGraw. Jason, how you been, man? We're back on another edition. How's it been going?
Everything's been going very well. It's been a really weird past couple of days. I was doing Moments in Blue Rocks yesterday, and then the game got suspended. But you know what? That's just the way that sports goes, But I'm really excited to be back for another week of Planet Philly. Always love coming on here and escaping Earth for a little bit. You know?
We love it. Yeah, we're heading to the planet of Philly. Yeah, that's where we're headed. Jen, it's been a weird week for Jason. Anything weird been going on with you? How have you been?
Well, it's been about an interesting month for me, I will say, because I have been sick back and forth, kind of fighting off illnesses and stuff. But nonetheless, I'm just happy that football season is approaching. I mean, like kind of sort of started yesterday, but nonetheless got a lot to look forward to. So I'm just remaining positive, obviously. But and it all continues tonight as well. So of course everything is going great with me as well.
Great to hear. Glad you're feeling a little bit better too, because I heard you were a little sick, like you mentioned, and we're glad to have you on the show. And we're back here on Planet. So let's get into it. We have a lot to get to today. I mean, so much has been going on in the past week or so, and especially in Major League Baseball. There's a team that plays over in South Philly, the Philadelphia Phillies. They've made a few moves as of late, and they go out, they go get Noah Syndergaard. They also go get a reliever in Robertson. I mean, a former Philly, David Robertson. He comes back. He played 7 games beforehand. Now he finally appeared in his first appearance back. It was his 8th appearance total with the Phillies. Unbelievable. And then you have Brandon Marsh. I mean, he comes in to the Phillies organization, finally kind of maybe solidifying that center field position. And that's where I want to go to first, Jovan. Question for you, because, we've talked about the Phillies a lot. We discuss the Phillies all the time. What would you grade the trade deadline for the Philadelphia Phillies? What grade would you give Dave Dombrowski? And out of those 3 guys they went out and got, they addressed every need that they had to fill. Starting pitcher, center field, as well as the bullpen. They go out and get their needs, what they need. What grade would you give Dombrowski? And out of those 3 guys, Syndergaard, Marsh, as well as Robertson, who do you think will be the most impactful?
Well, for me, I think I would give the Phillies, I want to give them an A, but I'm going to give them a B just because to leave them room for improvement. I think, for them to do anything at the deadline, I think with an accomplishment, just because, in years past, even last year when Dombrowski took over, there wasn't like a lot of like trade rumors out there. So you were just kind of wondering like, all right, is this team going to make a move, or are we just going to sit back and watch, the Mets and the Braves go bargain shopping again and, get like the damn Vogelbox or, the Jorge Soler from like last year. We're going to watch them, do that again. And surprisingly, Dombrowski went out and made moves without having to give up, most of the big time, players in the farm system, right? Like, granted, they had to give up Logan O'Hoppe. I wish it was Rafael Marchand, but he doesn't have value, it seems like, no more. So they had to give up him. They had to give up Ben Brown, who I think was a fast riser coming up in the majors. But seeing what they got in return for the players, I think it worked out well for them. Out of the 3 that I think that's probably going to be the most important, I'm going to say Syndergaard. I'm going to go Syndergaard just because Robertson, the bullpen was already in great shape, right? The way that, Thompson has came in and turned it around and really having guys in their own roles and just knowing this is your job. Like Corey Knebel, you're not the closer anymore, but I think you can be a really good 7th, 8th guy, can come in and just lock it down. And then you add Robertson. I mean, who kind of saw him just coming in his first game, just like getting like a couple of strikeouts and just making it look easy. So I think Syndergaard's going to be the biggest one, just because I don't know how long you want to keep on going back and forth with Bailey Falter as like your swing guy going back and forth. Suarez is starting to come around. He had a very good month of July. I think he only gave up 3 earned runs or something like that. It was ridiculous the way he was in July. Yep. So I think if Syndergaard, obviously he's not the same, pitcher that we saw with the Mets or anything, but I will say that if he can give you about 5 innings, or the rest of the way as like a quality start, I think you'll take that, especially with Suarez, turning it around. And then if, Gibson, we know what we are going to get from him. So I would go with Syndergaard and I give him a big.
Jovan, with all the additions and subtractions, we can't forget about that either. They move on from Didi Gregorius, right? And they also move on from Mickey Moniak and Odubel Herrera and Jarius Familia. What does that say about the organization and where they're headed to? And also, what does that type of a message bring to the clubhouse?
Oh, I think, it sends the message first and foremost that if you're not doing your job, like you will be, you'll be replaced. I mean, I think Familia's last straw was in that Pirates series where you almost gave up the entire elite in 9th inning, and everybody's just like,
that was brutal. That
really
was
brutal. Do this again.
It's like, how could you keep going through that?
Sitting here. Yeah, no, I'm sitting here watching. I wasn't watching the game, but I'm just following on ESPN, and I'm just like, oh man, is he like gonna blow this? And I'm like, why isn't Mark Appel like back up here? Like, I'm just thinking like all the players in the minors that could do a better job. So I think it sends a message that, like they're going to, if you're not producing, they're going to find replacements. And also think at the same time, I think they're also going to continue to usher in the new guys, right? I don't think nobody at the beginning of the season saw Didi Gregorius being released just because of, you knew his power was kind of waning, but you're like, he's a good veteran guy, someone that you can lean on, for his defense, better or worse. But you didn't think he was going to get released. And I think that also is a testament to what's happening in the minor league system, and was a testament to Bryson Stott with the way he's been hitting lately. So I think it's a little bit of both. And you're glad to see this, because it also, I think it showed that they're serious about making this playoff push. Like they believe like this could be our time to get into the playoffs this year.
And now we look at, everything that's happened with the trade deadline. We look at everything that the Phillies have been through this season as a whole. Obviously, glimmers of hope and, some great things going on, but also some heartbreak as well, such as Bryce Harper getting injured, which definitely was a major blow for the Phillies. With Harper looking to return by September, what is one thing the team needs to do right now, kind of immediately, to stay on the right path and kind of keep this like nice good streak going until he comes back?
I think, for them, honestly, I think, you got to keep on, everybody just got to keep on hitting, right? We had, Schwarber was kind of holding it down for him for a little bit. And then he's kind of waned a little bit, but that's, that's Schwarber, right? When he's on, he's on. When he's off, he's not horrible. It's just the ball's not flying out the park, right? But, it's good to see Nick Castellanos, he's starting to hit as well. So I think that's huge. That's really huge, because this was a guy last year in Cincinnati that was hitting for power and hitting for average at the same time. Like, it was just ridiculous what him and Jesse Winkler was able to do, last season at Cincy. So I think you got to get him going. And I mean, Alec Bohm, I think he's the key too. Him continuing to produce at the bottom of the order, which, for a lot of teams, that's kind of like dread. You're just like, there's no type of offense coming from there. And he's played really well for a guy who looked like he was probably on the one-way track, out of the city. So to see him play well, and then Rhys Hoskins, the most, lovable, hateable first baseman when it comes to the Phillies. He when he's on, he's on. When he's off, his defense is off. So I think if Hoskins continue to hit, Castellanos continues to hit, and Bohm continue to hit, I think they'll be really fine. I think for what they lost with Harper and then obviously losing Segura around the same time, I think they've done an amazing job at treading water and getting guys, to step up like a Derek Hall too. I can't forget to mention him. He's been huge coming out of Lehigh Valley.
Yeah, I think you make some really good points there, Jovan. I mean, Hall's been a pleasant surprise, especially after you lose Harper. He comes up from AAA and starts producing a little bit. He's been a really nice surprise for the Phillies. And I want to go back on just something you mentioned about Alec Bohm. I mean, he's been hitting really well the other night, the first night that he goes out there against the Nationals in the opener of the series. I mean, he gives them the lead after a home run. I mean, what do you think it took for Bohm to kind of start finding his groove defensively as well as offensively?
I think defensively, just not doing too much at the plate, just doing what you do well, right? Whenever we think about, the hot corners, right, first and third, you're thinking power guys, like you're thinking, what the Phillies had in the past, right, Ryan Howard, or you're thinking what the Braves have at third base with Austin Riley, just guys that are hitting power. And for a guy like Bohm, you don't need him to hit, for power just because you have guys stacked up ahead of him that can provide that power for you. So for him, I just think it's just all about, hitting for average, and just moving guys, along. I mean, you look at what he did in July, I think what he hit, 434. That's, just insane compared to the two previous months where he was hitting like 252. So to see him, make that, adjustment, I think is huge. And, I think it's a testament to, allowing players, and I know this is hard to do, just allowing players the time, to develop and then like get their, feet under them. Baseball is not like, football and basketball where that,
Yeah.
Young guys coming right away and they're like, boom, they're a star. Like they're hitting the ground running. Baseball.
Yeah. You gotta hang around the minors. Yeah, you have to hang around the
Yeah.
minors for a little bit.
Exactly. It takes till you get like 25, 24, 26 where you start to put it together and you're starting to play more consistently. And I think that's also testament to Rob Thompson. These guys are playing consistently. And it's not like how it was Girardi where the lineup was changing like every single day. Like this guy was hitting here, this guy was hitting here. Now it's like these guys know where they're hitting at. So now you can kind of create a game plan and just know what you have to do.
Jovan, one thing that we haven't seen so far on Planet Philly just yet is a whole lot of accolades, okay? And, we got robbed with Joel Embiid, right? And that whole MVP thing. But I feel like Rob Thompson has a shot of winning Manager of the Year. And he could be like one of the first interim managers to actually be able to do that. But what's it going to take for him to win Manager of the Year? Does it take a playoff berth or does it take like a World Series ride, if that makes any sort of sense?
No, it makes sense. I think for me, honestly, it would take a playoff berth just because this team hasn't been in the playoffs in 11 years. So, you do the math for a lot of us. 11 years ago, I was 19. So it's been a minute since, they were in the playoffs. And I think if he can get them there, just especially with how the season was trending, it was not looking good. This was a team that you were probably thinking, all right, well, they probably have to sell some guys. Will Bohm be on the trade block? Will Hoskins be on the trading block? I think if he can get them into the playoffs, it doesn't matter if they're the second seed in the wild card. It doesn't matter if they're the third seed in the wild card. As long as you get into the dance, anything can happen. And they get into the sixth seed to play whoever's the third seed or whatever. So I think if he can get them there, especially with, the obstacles that they've had to overcome, with Harper getting hurt, with Segura getting hurt, if he's able to overcome this and, get them to the playoffs and them top heavy, NL East that features the Braves and the Mets, definitely think he should be in the running for, Manager of the Year. I don't know who else you could potentially give it to. Maybe Seattle with the way they've turned it around. Because they were looking just like the Phillies. They were looking really rough for a while. So I think only him, the manager, for the Mariners and maybe the manager for the Orioles, just because they haven't been, they've been pretty good as well.
Yeah,
and
and
they actually have to correct myself really quickly because we actually did have an accolade last year because Bryce Harper won the MVP.
Oh yeah, there you
go.
Yeah,
that's right. You're right. Yeah, and Joe, I'm glad you mentioned the Orioles. I mean, they sold at the deadline. I don't think they believed where they were going to be where they were at at this point in the season. So, I mean, depending on how they finish the season, that's definitely, I think, a team that's going to be on the rise, especially with all the top prospects they have in that system. But yeah, I mean, listen, the Phillies, I mean, they're on a roll right now. I mean, you go out and you get these three players, and they're types of players that can make an impact right away. So, hopefully the playoff drought finally ends. It's been since 2011 since they've been back to the dance in October. We love October baseball here in Philly. Hopefully that can happen. Now I want to go back. We mentioned Bryce Harper a couple of times. He was in the broadcast booth during the opener of the National Series 2 Alumni Weekend. So that got us thinking a little bit here, Jovan. There's, you see a lot of players going to broadcasting over after their careers are done. And we've seen it with, Charles Barkley, Tony Romo, a ton of them. So that got us thinking, who is your favorite broadcaster that was an athlete before? For me, I think the easy choice is definitely to go Charles Barkley. I mean, how can you not love him? He's hilarious. He's made for television. I think it's the obvious choice. For me, I'm going to stay a little local. I'm a big fan of Ben Davis. I think what Ben Davis provides to the game, as a color commentator or in the post-game, pre-game show, I think he goes about the way he goes about it and talks about baseball is in a way that you're able to grasp some difficult topics when it comes to, training, when it comes to, all different scenarios to the game, especially catching, as he was a former catcher. So I think he's a little bit underrated as a broadcaster for sure. So Jovan, that begs the question: who's your favorite athlete or favorite broadcaster that used to be an athlete?
That's a tough one. That's a tough one. I wish it was the other way around. I wish it was who's your favorite broadcaster, and I could just start naming guys.
You can name that too. Why not? If you want, yeah, go ahead. Go both.
Okay. Well, athlete turned broadcaster. I don't know if I necessarily have a favorite, right? I guess it just depends on the sport. Like if it's like, obviously if I'm watching, TNT and there's like Inside the NBA on, I mean, how can you not love to hear, Charles, Kenny, Shaq, Ernie just, ripping and just having fun. So if I want to go the easy answer, I'll go with Barkley. He's always a fun listen to, especially when the old Sixers and the Nets thing was going on last year. That was a very, very comical TV right there. So if I went with that, and then just overall broadcaster, I would go Gus Johnson. Love Gus Johnson.
Yeah, he's a great
one. I wish he was doing NFL games, but he is doing NFL games, but I wish he was doing more NFL games. But he's always been a joy to watch. Just college football, college basketball, March Madness on CBS. So those would be, my answers.
Good ones. I like them.
Yeah, they're good ones. Jen, how about you? Who would you say your favorite athlete turned broadcaster would be?
So I would say, if you're thinking in terms of football, which I'm always thinking in terms of football, even when it's not football related, say the late great John Madden, even though he never played really in the NFL, he did do some coaching and obviously announcing in the NFL, but he did play at Cal Poly. And just like you said with Ben Davis, Nick, the way that he described football in a way that kind of helped other people understand the game and appreciate it more is definitely something that was inspiring to me in the ways that I want to contribute that in the same way in my writing. So just being able to learn from him, of course, we didn't grow up watching him, but we do know of him, and we know that he was great, in the game, and he was well respected in the NFL and football world. So just being able to say that he's definitely one of my favorites, not only for the fact of what he did for broadcasting, but the way that he gave a more appreciation and understanding of football is something that obviously I want to contribute. But in terms of like the modern day, kind of like we watch this athlete or these athletes and then they hit the broadcast booth, I'd have to say either Michael Strahan or Drew Brees, just for again, just the fact that they're more of the modern day players. And I love the way that they have fun. They're very entertaining. We saw what they were like on the field. So I love seeing athletes bring that kind of perspective to the broadcast booth. Now, also the downside to that is somebody who didn't study broadcasting as much because they did have a football or any athletic career, they don't really know as much yet about the the whole aspect of what broadcasting is, but it is great to see that kind of aspect of a player's perspective on the field, such as with Drew Brees or Michael Strahan.
Yeah, I think those are John Madden's. I mean, he's the ultimate. He's the ultimate broadcaster for sure. And then, going into Michael Strahan, I mean, he's on everything. He's everywhere. He's on Good Morning America. I mean, he did he do Kelly and Michael for a little bit. I mean, he did that. He does the pre and post game on Fox. Yeah, I mean, he's definitely a good one as well. But John Madden, ultimate legend. He was awesome. I mean, no doubt. And if you haven't seen the documentary yet, that was a great documentary about John Madden that came out just recently in the past few months before he passed away. So definitely a great one to check out. And Jason, how about you? I know you're gonna have a good one for this topic.
It was really tough for me to come up with one, but if I were to go through my list of people and choose one of them, I'd just say Reggie Miller is a really good one.
Yeah,
I feel like in some ways he's kind of underrated. He does some really great work with Kevin Harlan, and every time I listen to him, I just always feel like he gives such great insight on the game, but he also has a little bit of swag to him, and I think that is what makes the broadcast really enjoyable. They always say that when it comes to TV, it's really important to have a great color commentator because, people can be watching the game and they could be and they could have the game off, just to understand like what's going on. So the color commentator is like one of the most important key things in a TV broadcast. And it's the opposite with radio, that's more about the play by play. But I feel like when it comes to TV, Reggie Miller is just great for TV.
Yeah, I think it's a really good one. I think everyone came up with pretty good ones in this topic. I mean, there's so many out there. I mean, you have the Tony Romos of the world. Can't go Tony Romo on this podcast. I wouldn't for sure. I mean, there's no way, and I'm gonna take Tony Romo as my favorite. I think he's pretty good. I think he's starting to lose the flair a little bit. Like since when he first got, he was predicting the plays a little bit. I'm done with Tony Romo. The Tony Romo, I think it's peaked at this point, and he's now another broadcaster that they have and pay millions of dollars to. Now I'm very interested to see what Tom Brady does when he signed that Fox deal. That's going to be something to watch for when he retires in probably 10 years or so. He'll be 55 before he ends up retiring and signs actually with Fox. So we'll see what happens with that. But hey, I think it was a cool topic seeing Bryce, in the broadcast booth. Maybe he's got a career after baseball. Maybe we see him in the booth somewhere. You never know. You see Jimmy Rollins every year kind of during the postseason on Fox. So very interesting stuff there. Great answers by all of you guys. I want to move to our second topic of the day, though. We have to talk about the Eagles. Training camp's underway. Hall of Fame game was just recently. The Eagles first preseason game is coming up very shortly. But Jovan, I have to talk about our guy, Jalen Hurts. I have to bring him up. I mean, he's a quarterback heading into this year once again for the Eagles, the second year as the starter, the full-time starter for the Birds. We're big fans of Jalen Hurts, I would say. We believe in him, and there's a section of Eagles fans out there that I don't think are all bought in yet, and I don't know if the Eagles are all bought in yet. My question is, what does Jalen have to do this year? He's got AJ Brown, he's got Devontae Smith, he's got all the running backs, Boston Scott, Miles Sanders, Kenny Gainwell. He's got a great offensive line. Defense looks much improved. What does Hurts have to do this season to kind of win those people over and ultimately kind of solidify himself as the starter moving forward the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years?
That's a good question. I don't honestly, me personally, I don't think there's nothing he can do to win, the fans over, because people, regardless of what fan base you're in, you're setting your ways on how you feel about said quarterbacks, whoever joins your team. I think for Hurts to continue to progress, in his career, to be, moving up into that, top 10, quarterback range. I think for him personally, I think he has to, continue to, work on his mechanics, the development footwork, which I think we've seen, it's gotten better just due to stuff we've seen in the offseason, just things we've seen through training camp. It seemed like Dad has, picked up and, gotten better. I think if he brings his completion percentage just up a couple of ticks, I think he'll be, all right. Not every quarterback's going to, throw, 70%, their passes. I think what Burrow was like close to 70%, but hey,
Right.
that was an anomaly of a great season, right?
And I think
think
they'll
Mac,
throw more. And I think he'll definitely
yeah.
throw more this year.
Oh yeah, they're definitely going to throw the the football more, and I think if they throw the football more, obviously his completion percentage is going to go up. I mean, if let me say if he has what Mac Jones had 22 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, had like a 68, so completion percentage. It wasn't great, right? It wasn't great, but we don't hear nobody saying, hey, Mac Jones, he didn't have that great of a year. He wasn't that good, but
You're talking to a Patriots guy.
oh, hey, sorry, no
No,
disrespect.
you could.
No disrespect to Michael McCorkle. That's our guy right
Michael
there.
McCorkle
But no, I
Jones.
think I think if Hurts continues just to get the completion percentage a little bit more, and continue to do what he does best, right? I think there was opportunities last year where we did see him extend, to throw the ball down the field. He's gotten lucky sometimes. I mean, look, the Quez Watkins 91-yard touchdown pass that wasn't a touchdown because he couldn't get it to the end zone, or
Yeah.
just some unfortunate things that happened, and obviously people remember what happened in the playoff game, but I think that was just a young team going up and then against the buzzsaw and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So I think if he takes the completion percentage up a few, and just continues to run the football. I don't want him to stop running. I think that's one of his better elements of his game. I mean, he had the most rushing yards for a quarterback outside Lamar Jackson. So I mean, he continues to do that, become a dual threat. I think if you can get maybe, I'm going to say 30 total touchdowns and about we'll take about 13 interceptions because you're just going to throw the ball more. If I think if you get that, yeah. I think you'll be I think you'll be in great shape, and I think this team will be in excellent shape.
So we know that Jalen Hurts is going to be the starter. I mean, no doubt about that. That's what everybody's been saying. But what do we make of the depth of the quarterback room? So, of course, in training camp, we haven't seen a whole lot of Carson Strong, the other Carson. I was about to say another Carson, but Carson Strong, we haven't seen a whole lot of him in training camp. And what we saw of Gardner Minshew, we didn't see really the best of. Of course, he had a good few passes here and there with the second team. But what is the best course of action for the Eagles regarding their quarterback depth?
I think quarterback depth. I think they're okay where they're at. Obviously, right? God forbid Hurts gets hurt. They can lean on Minshew a couple of games, like they did last year with the ankle. Were able to like basically scale down the offense to what they did with Hurts. They scaled down the offense. You lean on that running game, and you let it flourish. I think the quarterback room right now is still. I think it's still in the developmental stages, right? I think, Minshew, there's a reason, and I say this to people all the time. There's a reason why he got cut in Jacksonville and couldn't stick it as the backup, to a guy like CJ, Beathard, who's the backup there. So I think it's still in the developmental stage. Carson Strong, a guy who a lot of people thought was, going to be a drafted guy. Medicals probably, scare some teams off just with his, knee, but we saw what he was able to do at Nevada. He could throw that ball a little bit. So I think, he's going to be a development guy. And also I think, keep an eye out, for Reed Sennett. He's another guy that they picked up last year who, we'll probably see him. We'll definitely see, probably won't see Hurts that much in the preseason, but we'll definitely see those three. So I think it'll be interesting to see how the quarterback battle kind of wagers out. I think Minshew's probably safe as the backup, but I'll be interested to see, if they decide, to keep, a third guy on the practice squad, because, we saw last year they added Jamie Newman, who was an undrafted guy, but he just couldn't cut it, for them. So I think it's still in developmental stage. I think they're in a good spot now.
I want to talk a little bit more about the defensive side of the ball. So this is a two-part question here. So how much better is the defensive line and the linebacking core compared to last season? And my second part of the question is Jonathan Gannon. There was a whole lot of controversy about him last season, and he was highly regarded by just everybody from national news media. What do you think his expectations are going to be this season? And if he doesn't live up to his expectations, do you think that Planet Philly could be under attack?
Oh yeah, 100%, and it should be. It should be if he doesn't get it together. I mean, he played in Grand. A lot of people say, he didn't have the tools to be successful, but I mean, come on, man. They were playing bend but don't break defense. They were allowing quarterbacks to complete almost 70% of passes. Like, who? I think we all remember that Chargers game. That was
Oh
just
my
ridiculous.
goodness. Justin Herbert, yeah.
I think he completed about 80% of his passes. Like, he was just sitting there, just like with a game of Madden on rookie, just literally picking apart what every way he can go. So yeah, if he can't get, things out of this defense or what they added, then I definitely think there has to be pressure, on him to, to potentially, leave. I hate to say that, but yeah. And then you look at the front seven, yeah, I think they're definitely better, definitely improved. Getting a guy like Jordan Davis in the first round was huge. Even though it seemed like he was going to fall to the Ravens, but the Eagles were able to work their maneuver in because Jordan Davis is like the perfect Raven to go in the middle of that defensive line. So then they're able to maneuver to get him. I think it's huge. I think Josh Sweat, I think is still coming into his own. I think, I think he's going to be a great pass rusher, for them. Javon Hargrave, I think he's entering his last year as deal, which is crazy because I feel like he just got here. So I think they're good. And the linebackers, I think, they're great. I think they're better than what they were, last year. No disrespect, to Alex Singleton, TJ Edwards, and those guys. They were solid, but adding a guy, like Kazir White, who, can also tackle, and help stop the run, but also be a guy in pass coverage. I mean, we saw too many times over the last couple of years, what tight ends are able to do against, the Eagles linebacker. It was like open season every time,
Nathan
it didn't
Gary.
matter
That's all I have to say. Nathan Gary.
man. Nathan Gary was getting, just turned around. I mean, what was that? That Steelers game a couple years ago where he
Oh
was
my
just
goodness.
getting exploited in
Yeah.
the middle of the field.
He did. Didn't he have a pick six or something against the 49ers? Didn't he have like one big like moment or something?
Oh no,
with
that
the
was
Eagles?
that was Alex Singleton.
Oh,
Singleton had
Singleton.
the
Okay,
pick
that was
six.
Singleton. That's right.
Singleton had the pick
Yeah.
six. So you add Kazir White, who I think is going to help. Hassan Reddick, I think, was a huge pickup for them. Especially for how he's been playing the last few years, to come off that edge. And then the Kobe Dean, a guy who a lot of people thought again was supposed to be this guy. It was going to be a top prospect. Guy early drafted, falls again because of medicals. I think he's going to be a really good player for him, and that's something that the Eagles didn't have. We're talking about having depth and talent, and I think they have depth at a lot of places, a lot of young talent at a lot of places on the defense, which should make Eagles fans happy, because that means that they're drafting well, they're signing undrafted free agents well, and they're developing them to say, hey, if such and such gets hurt, we're entrusting you to play and make plays. So Nakobe Dean can be better than Davion Taylor at this point in year one. That would be an amazing start for them.
Yeah, I think they're going to be a much improved team. I think they got better defensively. I mean, Jonathan Gannon now kind of seems like he has his guys to fit what he wants to do. And that's what I'm very curious to see. I made the bold prediction that Jordan Davis is going to win defensive rookie of the year next year. I just think he's going to be that good.
Ooh.
I think he's going to be that good in the interior. I mean, he's learning from guys like Fletcher Cox. I mean, Hargrave's there, Josh Sweat. I mean, this defense is going to be lethal, Jovan. How much of a step further do you think they take it this year with the defense? I know the secondary is a little bit better, still a little bit of question marks at the safety position, but do you think they make that jump to be a top 10, even top 5 defense with the talent that they have?
Top 5, we'll see. It'll take a lot of miracles for that to happen. Obviously, we have to see how things, but they have the talent to become top 5, right? I think definitely top 10 is definitely something to strive for, because like you said, you look at the defensive line, and one thing we can say about the Eagles, they've always had a stock defensive line rotation where they can just roll a lot of guys on second and third down. You'd be like, who's this defensive end? Where's he coming from? And how is he getting sacks? Like, they just roll guys out and just say, all right, you're playing them on this third down, get out there and, make plays. And I think we're going to see that, they're going to be a playmaking. I think they're going to be a very playmaking defense. I think like you said, even the secondary, I think the secondary is, tremendous. And we haven't been able to say that for a few years now. You got Darius Slay, who's still playing at a high level, getting a guy like James Bradbury, who I think probably has a chip on his shoulder, just based off how everything, played out for him in New York. Avonte Maddox, once again, playing in the spot where he's supposed to be playing at, now on the outside, but in the slot where he's able to do what he can do. And then, like I said, the talent, the young talent, I don't think a lot of people notice, they have a lot of young cornerbacks behind those three veterans that, are going to be able to, to really learn. We're talking about the Tay Gallons. We're talking about the Zach McPhersons, Mario Goodrich, who they, picked up in an undrafted, signing, Mac McCain, Kerry Vincent. I mean, these are some names that we remember from college ball that ended up on this team. So excited to see, how they doing. And like you said, safety, yeah, Marcus Epps, not the flash is a name, for them. He just somehow sticks on the roster.
He stays around. I mean, there's a little bit of excitement about him. I'm wait and see on Marcus Epps. I mean, he comes in. I mean, I believe he was undrafted, if I'm not mistaken, or taken very late.
Yeah.
So
he was undrafted guy.
So I mean, I'm wait and see on him. I mean, you don't bring back Rodney McLeod. You have Anthony Harris. I mean, that's a guy that has been with Gannon before. So I'm very curious to see how the secondary really shakes out. I think the corners are the best they've had. I mean, since Asante Samuel, but I mean, Lito Shepherd. I mean, it's been that long since you've had names like that.
They've lost Steve Nelson too, right?
Yeah, Steve Nelson's out. Yep. Yeah.
Even Houston, I think. Even Houston now.
Yep.
I also wanted to ask really quickly. We haven't really talked too much about the head coach and Nick Sirianni. What do you think is going to be is it going to be different this season from his perspective? Do you think that there's going to be different types of play calls? And if so, what are we going to see more of this season from him that we didn't see last season?
I think we'll continue to see him make adjustments. I know that was something that, a lot of us, were, screaming about early in the season, especially when we're 2-5 and you're just like, what are you doing? Throwing the ball 30, 40 times. Like, you just can't do that. You got a nice running game. Run the ball. Like, that's what you got to do. So I think you're going to continue to see him make, adjust, continue to make adjustments, which is, make or break for, a head coach. I think you're going to, I think like I think we've talked about, right? You're going to see him dial up some more pass plays because now they have the weaponry to do it, right? You have a Dallas Goedert, you have an AJ Brown, you have a Devontae Smith, nice 1-2 combo. You have Quez Watkins, whose speed is unmatched. When you can get him one-on-one. Zach Pascal. I mean, this is a deep wide receiving core too. So I mean, I think we're going to see a lot of different things, but I still think the backbone of this team is going to be the run game. I think they're going to continue to lean on that ground game, and you got to when you got like one of the better, offensive lines in the league. So if you can get that run game going, with Miles Sanders, hopefully he scores a touchdown this year because he's in a contract year. So if he can get going, scores a touchdown, then I think that's just going to open up this passing game, more for him. And I think that's going to be good news because teams already know this team can run the ball. Now it's going to be, let's show the league that we can actually throw the ball.
And so now I kind of have like a general question. Training camp has just came back for, the Eagles among all the other teams in the NFL, but we're all Philly media and, Philly fans as well. And if there's one thing we love to overanalyze everything. If Jalen Hurts has a bad day, then it's like the end of the world. But if he has a good day, then like quarterback for life, it is what it is. And obviously, there's been a video that's going around of Trayvon Diggs being torched, in practice recently. So obviously something for Eagles fans to be happy about. But if it happened to the Eagles, then it'd be like, it's just training camp. So my question for you is, what advice or what would you say to, Philly fans or really just football fans in general about, like taking training camp one day at a time and just kind of being patient because you're not seeing like the bigger picture, the full picture yet?
Listen, I would say training camp is just a snapshot. It's not the final picture. It's like preseason, right? Preseason's like a snapshot. Like teams, players, they're working on things. It's not, this is not like the finished product, right? We've seen teams go 4-0 in the preseason, look like world beaters, and then regular season started and they're just like, yeah, not the same team that you saw, that was running out, third stringer. So I think for training camp and training camp preseason in general, take it for a grain of salt. You're looking for more so not team performances, but I think you're looking more so at individual performances. You're looking at, all right, who's going to be the guy that's going to step up? You're looking at, all right, will Jalen Reagor, reach his potential, right? You're looking at, all right, the running back room is set. All right, can we see Kenneth Gainwell continue to take them steps? Can we see, Jalen Hurts continue, to take those steps. And I think that's what all NFL fans have remember. Like, I know we all like to see the viral clips, like you said, Trayvon Diggs getting burnt by like Semi Foco, that was like, oh my God. But that was Trayvon Diggs last year, right? He gave up a lot, right? So I think you just gotta take everything with a grain of salt. And we won't know, I think, honestly, about none of these teams, right? Until we get through the first quarter of the season. I think once we get through those first 4 games, then we can kind of tell the story. But not so much in preseason. Well, I mean, unless you're the Texans, the Falcons, and the Bears, then we kind of already know who you are.
Yeah, I totally agree. And bringing us to the Sixers, I know when we talk a little Sixers, I put out a tweet the other day. I'm so sick of seeing practice videos of players in the offseason and people going bananas or just hating. It mind boggles me. We're still doing this. We're still doing this after the Ben Simmons nonsense that we saw over the past how many years? I'm so sick and tired of people overreacting in training camp, in preseason. No, we're not doing it again. We're not doing it. We're going to get to the regular season, whether it's football, whether it's basketball. I don't care. We're not going to overreact this early in the year. And I know Jason wants to get into the Sixers a little bit. And yeah, I just saw Harden video the other day saying he's back. He's going to be the Rockets Harden. Well, he may be, but we don't know yet. It's literally August, and we have months till the season starts. But I'm so glad you brought that up, Jen. I'm so glad you brought that up.
You know what it is? So I feel like part of it is just fans just taking out their frustration on where the team was last season.
Yeah.
And, they don't have anything else to look at except for that. Like, there's no other content. Like, there's no other games being played. And exactly. It's just the impatience of just, there not being any sort of games or anything like that. I feel like that's where it comes from.
What did one of the most famous Philadelphia 76ers player of all time say? We're talking about practice. We're literally talking about practice right now. That's just me. Jason, I know you want to talk a little Sixers before we run.
Yeah, my only question, Jovan, is so we saw Tyrese Maxey speak with John Kincaid, and he was on the John Kincaid show. Doc Rivers was on Vince Carter's podcast. We see all the James Harden workout videos, and we also heard about the pay cut and all that sort of stuff. With where the Sixers are right now, what is their ceiling going into next season?
Where they're at right now, what's their ceiling? Man. Right now, additions they made, everybody's healthy. Joel Embiid doesn't break his face. I say,
knocking on wood.
Yeah, knocking on wood, right? I still think they're a top. I still think they're a top 4 team in the Eastern Conference. At the end of the day, I think the additions that they made, they weren't like earth. I think they were nice, plug and play pieces, right? Mine is giving PJ Tucker 3 years, $37 million, but I digress on that. I heard y'all talk about that before, so I digress on that point. But I think adding a guy like PJ Tucker, right, a guy that's going to continue to give you defense, don't expect a lot of points from him. He's going to probably have a couple Matisse Thybulle stat lines, but we will probably overlook that just because it's PJ Tucker. So I think, adding a guy like DeAnthony Melton off the bench, giving him another guy that can play off ball, but also, be as another backup point guard, I think is huge. For them, Daniel House, another 3-and-D guy. I think they're still top 3, top 4 team in the East right now. I think obviously you got to say, just giving them respect, you got to say Boston's like the best team right now just because they went to the finals. Number 2, I would say Milwaukee. I say Milwaukee's number 2. You can never count them out, especially when they're healthy with that core of Giannis, Holiday, and Middleton. I think you got to go there with them 2. 3, I think honestly, 3 can honestly go Sixers or the Miami Heat right now. I think those are like the 3-4 teams right there. Number 5, I would say. Number 5, I would probably say. Number 5, I'd probably say like Toronto. I think Toronto is a very good number 5 team. That's that team that's just always going to give you issues, and they just never quit. They're just going to be a thorn in your side. You just want to never see them in the playoffs like the Sixers, because they're going to just make you just so annoyed. And then 6, I'll probably say Six, probably go Chicago. I go Chicago's probably your sixth best team, and then seventh, I think Brooklyn's seventh, just because I don't know what to make of them, at all. So those probably my top seven teams, in the Eastern Conference. What's the Sixers? Like I said, balancing between that 3-4, spot. And I think for them in the regular season, the key is going to be how do you match up against Milwaukee? How are we going to match up against Boston? Because they did have some games last year where they looked like they were neck and neck with them. And you hope that they can get over the second round, issues, which has plagued them for the last few years. Obviously, circumstances happen each time. Hopefully they don't happen again this time around.
So with where all four of like the big four teams are for Philadelphia sports, from today until like the end of next season when it comes to football, or sorry, when it comes to the NBA finals and the NHL Stanley Cup finals, if 3 out of 4 of the major sports have like a very big playoff run and go very deep in the playoffs, what do you think that's going to mean for the city of Philadelphia?
Oh, I think that means the city's gonna be back up again. I think, I think the city's gonna be in great shape. Nobody, wants to be, rooting for a team in a city where, the team's not playing well. I mean, look how they're treating the Flyers right now. The Flyers don't exist, right? The Flyers.
That's exactly why I said 3.
See,
I don't know if you noticed that.
The Union have literally taken.
You're the best team. They're the best team in Philadelphia right now, no doubt.
Yeah,
the Union have literally taken the seat from the Flyers. I mean, shoot, Villanova basketball takes the seat from the Flyers a lot of times. So I mean, if you can get 3 out of 4 with a deep playoff run, I think it's exciting, right? And it starts with the Phillies, right? The Phillies can make into the playoffs in October. And granted, right, we're talking about what wild card rounds, best of 3. Granted, they might not make it out of that round, and I think people will be okay with it, right? It's almost like when they went to the playoffs back in 07. And they faced the Rockies, and it was like that excitement, like, oh my gosh, you're finally here, like, you're gonna make some noise. It didn't go so well. But just that moment to have that excitement again, I think it starts with them. They get it rolling, they get it kicked off. I think we're going to see the Eagles back again in the playoffs. I think the Sixers are definitely going to be back in the playoffs again. So I think all three can, totally handle the business. The fourth one, I don't got a lot of hope for them. They have to learn how to play hockey in 2020. They ain't there yet.
They have to get it right upstairs
Starts
before they get. Yeah, they have to get it right upstairs. They can get it right upstairs. Maybe we'll see hockey in 3 years, 4 years, 5. Who knows? We'll see competitive hockey again.
Not 1, not 2.
Yeah. Oh no, there we go with my guy LeBron. I mean, oh boy. But no, I think you're right, Jovan. I mean, when everyone's good, when the Eagles, I mean, especially the Eagles and Phillies and Sixers, when these teams are in it and they're in a race, they're in the playoffs. I mean, this city is just hopping. And we've been kind of dying for that a little bit, especially with the Phillies. I mean, it's been so long. It's been dreadful over the past 10 years to watch them play. The Sixers, we had the process years. The Eagles got it done just a few years ago. But those are the two teams you want to see it get rolling. Flyers are just a lost cause at this point in time. They lose out on Goudreau. So I'm with you. I really do think if all these teams can start making some noise in the playoffs, I think the city's really going to be something we haven't seen in a long time, because it's very hard to have all the teams really good at the same time, for sure. But before we get out of here, we have a segment we love to do before we end every show, Jovan. It's called Space Jammin'. What are we listening to? What type of music are we listening to? Whose album are we bumping? I've literally listened. I picked the same album 2 weeks in a row. I've changed it this week. I've changed it. I will go last, but Jen, you can go first. We'll go Jen, Jason, and then Jovan, and then I'll round things out.
So, as this past week, I've obviously been engulfed in football. So I've been watching training camp on NFL Network. And if there are two things that NFL Network loves, it's obviously the love of talking about football and Imagine Dragons. So I've been listening to Imagine Dragons this week, specifically the song Bones, because they play that song as like a segue to a commercial break every single day, maybe a couple times a day. And I'm not complaining because the song is catchy. So it piqued my interest to get back into Imagine Dragons. And that's literally what I've been listening to this week. Maybe because of NFL Network, may not be, but that.
I like it. I like that one. I think that's a great one. You sent that in the group chat the other day talking about NFL Network just kept playing Imagine Dragons. I think that's pretty funny. I mean, I'll tune into some Imagine Dragons every once in a blue moon. Jason, are you listening to some Imagine Dragons this week? What do you got?
I was expecting for some reason, like when you were talking about football music, like the first thing that came into my head was Carrie Underwood's Sunday Night Football theme song.
Yes, that's a great
That
one.
is
That might
honestly a
come up.
banger.
That may
Hey,
come up soon. Who knows?
exactly. But so as far as what I've been listening to, I'm the type of person that likes to listen to a lot of things. I got a little bit of Fleetwood Mac on like the rock side of stuff,
Nice.
and then on the pop side of things, I got Doja Cat. It's really weird as that combo is. I have to give respect to all the greats. It's just like athletes in sports. If you're great at a sport, I got to give you respect, and it's the same thing with music. So Doja Cat, Fleetwood Mac, interesting combo. But that's pretty much like what I would say my two top artists and bands that I've been listening to, maybe a little bit of Creedence Clearwater Revival as well. I'm a little bit old school in that sort of sense. But Nick, I had to add this. I totally forgot to tell you before, when we were talking about like our favorite color commentators, I was surprised that you didn't say Chris Collinsworth.
I
Because
know.
after
I know.
during every single broadcast, this guy says, now
I
here's
thought
a
that
guy.
would have been too cliche. That would have been too cliche for me to go with, to roll with. I couldn't do it. I'll stick with the baseball thing. We're in baseball season. If you asked me in about 2 months, I probably would say maybe him. He might have gone for it. Jovan, what are you jamming? What's space jamming with you? What are you listening to?
Man, I've been waiting for this segment the whole night, just because I know Jessica knows one of the best segments on this show. What am I listening to? It's a little bit of everything right now. If you look at my Spotify playlist, there's a lot of random stuff. We got like the 90s hip hop, playlist going. We're
Nice.
talking like Biggie, Tupac. I mean, we're mixing in a Tribe Called Quest. We're mixing in, we're mixing in a whole bunch of stuff. We're talking
Dr. Dre?
Yeah, we got some Dr. Dre. We got
Nice.
some, we got some, Puffy. We got some Mace. What I mean? Mixing some, like I said, it's a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah, we got that. Yeah, man. There's a lot of throwbacks there. Then you got I listen to Logic a lot, so I got some Logic going in there. We got some old school. We got some Logic going in there.
Right here. I got it right here, the new album.
Yeah, I haven't gotten to that yet, so I gotta get around to that. So I'm listening to Logic. Listening to some old school Janet Jackson.
I like it.
A little bit of everything. A little bit mixture of everything. Stevie Wonder. It just depends on the day, honestly.
I like it.
The soul playlist, the pop payment playlist. I got a little bit of
respect
everything.
for Stevie Wonder.
Those are great ones. I love it. You guys all had some pretty good ones. Now, I'm gonna start out. I've seen this on Twitter lately. All the NFL the intro songs on Fox, NBC, as well as CBS, ESPN. I've been listening to them a lot, just like going back. I'm like, which one do I like more? I'm like, I think I have my list. Seen those lists kind of going around. Maybe we'll rank them next week at some point. But I've been listening to that. But as listening in the car and all this week, I've been in my summer mood a little bit. 24K Golden. I mean, he has that song Mood. It's been putting me in a mood lately. He just reminds me of Summer's voice. Been playing a lot of his albums. He's a younger artist, but I've been enjoying him. I mean, some of the songs he put out an album last year. I've been listening to that. El Dorado is the name of that album. So I've been listening to that and his music a lot as of late. So yeah, I've been in a summer type mood and listening to him down the highway with the windows down with 24K Golden. So that's what I've been space jamming as of late. I'm coming with the wacky ones. I'm not coming with my normal Future or Logic this week. It was out of the ordinary this week. So, but as always, guys, I mean, great job. I loved all the music you guys were listening to. And Jovan, thanks again for joining Planet Philly. And just tell everyone where they can find you at on Twitter, as well as at Sporting News, what kind of content you put out.
Oh yeah, appreciate y'all having me on. Glad to be landing in Planet Philly and be taking my rocket back up out of here soon. So appreciate y'all having me on. You can follow me on Twitter at Jovan10. Like you said, sporting news, doing a little bit of everything, sports betting, fantasy football. It's almost football season, so you know what that means. It's gonna be a lot of busy time coming up between bets and fantasy football. So got that going. Obviously, TSL podcast. We do over there. Me, Harrison, Nick. The whole crew. Obviously, Planet Philly is always invited to come on. To come on to the pod. So invitations always open there for y'all. TotalSportsLive.com. Obviously, got a couple of things up there looking at the Phillies trade deadline just this week. So yeah, got a lot of stuff on the horizon. Hopefully do some more podcasts, things like this. Yeah, it's always a bunch of ideas that we're always throwing around that we'll eventually get to on our list. So yeah. Appreciate y'all having me on. Y'all continue to keep on doing the great work that y'all do with the podcast, enjoying what y'all doing separately, what y'all doing in y'all endeavors outside of this, the First and Gen podcast I have listened to and subscribed. So, definitely keep up the great work, with the podcast, outside the podcast, down in Wilmington, keep on doing y'all thing.
Thank you.
Jovan,
Thank you so much.
Appreciate
we're
it,
not
Jovan.
Houston Rockets. We're not Dallas Stars. We're not Cleveland Guardians. But you know what? You're always welcome to come back on here anytime.
110%. Jovan, it was a pleasure. Make sure to go follow at Jovan10, also at TotalSportsLive.com. I always love doing stuff for Total Sports Live. Always a pleasure. Been there for a couple of years as well. So we got some things on the horizon coming up. So for Jen, for Jason, for Jovan, I'm Nick Earnshaw. Make sure to follow us at Planet Philly Pod on all the socials. You can also email us planetphillypod@gmail.com. Make sure to subscribe on the YouTube channel as well at Planet Philly Pod. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Have a great rest of your day.